Very good afternoon, students. And yesterday we saw various ways through which food can be preserved. There was like we discussed on various method, thermal processing. Then we discussed on low temperature, how low temperature and freezing can also help in delaying growth of microorganisms. So today we are going to see preservation of food by chemical agents, and that is called as a chemical preservation. So there are a variety of preservatives that are being used, and there are different types of chemical preservatives that can be used to preserve variety of food, and that is obvious. Because why different chemical preservative? Because different food has a different intrinsic factor and extrinsic factor. Okay, intrinsic means inherent factors of the fruit or vegetable. For example, like if you compare the tomato, so tomato has acid. Okay, so its pH is like its acidity is high, so it is a high acid food. But if you look at the beetroot is alkaline in nature. So this is its inherent property. Tomato, because of its acid content, it is acidic food, and therefore is acidic in nature. And when you are processing the or requirement of chemical or effectiveness of certain chemical would be different in case if you are adding any chemical in this. Whereas in case of beetroot, wherein the situation will be alkaline, it will be different. Okay, its action will be different. So chemical preservatives are generally utilized in food preservation by various means. By directly mixing them with the food that is needed to be preserved. For example, you can add additives or preservatives in chutneys or squashes or fruit juices, etc. So you can directly mix these additives or chemicals or preservatives into these food systems like squash, juices, fruit juice concentrate, or it can be used in a wrapper or container of a food rather than in foods itself. So this novel innovation or invention has occurred because in the food we don't want any chemical preservative, because we know that the chemicals may be for longer period of time. If you keep consuming the chemical preservatives, you may have hazardous health impact of these consumption of chemical preservatives. So consumer want something which is more natural, but at the same time you all know that the preservation of food is very difficult. So what if the packaging material or the wrapping itself is added or made with the chemical compound, so that it gives a better protection and extension of the shelf life. At the same time, in the food there is no chemical preservative. Or third way is it can be placed in air of a storage environment of the food. Like for example, you just the presence of chemical itself is sufficient, so that the insects or bacteria do not come nearby. Used for treatment of equipment used in food processing. For example, you know that equipment that are used in processing of fruit juice or milk processing. So if the equipment itself or processing utensil itself is dirty or with other lot of microorganisms that come along with the fruit juice or milk, so what if you clean this equipment or the utensil that is being used in food processing with the these antimicrobial agent or chemical preservatives, so that this helps in reduction of microbial load, initial microbial load. Some chemical preservative brings some undesirable changes such as change in taste or change in smell. For example, too much of potassium sorbate along with the citric acid gives like a very off odor or taste, or sodium benzoate, or there are many chemicals which gives rise to of odor or of taste if added in large quantity. So this slide focuses on what different types of chemical preservatives available. I am sure you must have studied this before, or maybe you will be studying this on additives subject or some related subject, but just to give you an overview, for example, organic acids. The category is organic acids. So, what are those organic acids which can be used as a food preservative? Propionic acid or propionate. So, under this propionic acid and propionate, various names that comes like sodium or calcium propionate are commonly used, and their function is basically inhibiting the mold in bakery products. So the mold can grow in bakery products because bakery product has a water activity that allows the growth of yeast and mold. And you see bread generally has lot of mold growth if you keep it outside the temperature. So this calcium propionate is added in the bakery product like bread to prevent or inhibit the growth of mold. Propionic acid or propionate, they are all mold inhibitor and with very little effect or no effect against bacteria and yeast. Therefore, they are added in food which usually undergo mold spoilage. So similar to propionic acid, which is naturally found in Swiss cheese, or they can be developed during some of the fermented products, by the bacteria. So this can act as a mold inhibitor. The second organic acid chemical preservative in this category is benzoic acid or benzoate. So well known is sodium benzoate and is used to preserve variety of food like jam, jellies, beverages, fruit and their products. And it is very effective at power pH, and its antimicrobial activity decreases with increase in pH. Therefore, it is usually used to preserve acidic and slightly acidic foods. For example, at pH of 2.5 to 4, it is very effective against most of the bacteria. Of course, some yeast and mold also. Methyl paraben, propyl paraben, these are basically derivatives of this benzoic acid, and they are commonly used to preserve variety of food. So their advantage over benzoate is that they are more effective under higher pH. Sorbic acid and sorbates are another category which is very commonly used in food preservation. So, for example, sorbic acid and its salts in the form of calcium salt, sorbic acid, sodium sorbate, or potassium sorbate are used as an antimicrobial agent to preserve variety of food. So, basically, again, the sorbic acid and sorbates are effective against yeast and mold, but they are very less effective against bacteria. Their antimicrobial activity is high at a lower pH. Therefore, if your food is acidic in nature, for example, they will work excellent. So therefore, if you look, if you have a choice between some other preservative and the sorbates, you will only you can use the sorbate only in the food which are having lower pH. So pickles, fruit juice, fruit syrups, and other foods like cheeses, bakery products, etc., to inhibit growth of mold and yeast. This sorbic acid and the salts could be used. Acetic acid and acetates like its derivatives such as monochloroacetic acid, para-acetic acid, dehydroacetic acid, or sodium diacetates are also commonly used as a food additives, and some examples include dehydroacetic acid is usually used to treat the wrappers of cheese so that it is not directly added in cheese, but wrappers of cheese which can then inhibit growth of mold on the surface of the cheese. Acetic acid in the form of vinegar is also added in the form of vinegar in pickles. You know that pickles are mostly added with vinegar, and vinegar is nothing but glacial acetic acid, or more, almost more than 90% of the acetic acid. So this acid in the form of vinegar is added as a preservative because it's highly acidic, okay, in pickles to inhibit growth of microorganism, and its activity increases with decrease in pH. Sodium diacetate again is used in malt syrup, and it is used to treat wrapper of butter. So that is not directly used but indirectly being used. Then you have nitrites and nitrates. Okay, so basically nitrite and nitrates of sodium or potassium are used in curing of meat. Okay, curing solution. So you might not be knowing about curing. Curing is a process, again preservation method or processing method, exclusively used for generally for meat. Okay, sodium nitrates and nitrites, so, and their salts. So here meat, it is has a red color. So this red color of meat is because of the pigment called as a myoglobin. Okay, so this myoglobin gets oxidized, and from red color it turns to a little bit purple color, and then when you cook again further, it gets converted into brown. So there is a oxidation and reduction of this myoglobin pigment which is responsible for red color. So generally, if you treat these red meat or meat pieces with the mixture of nitrates and nitrites, that mixture is called as a curing mixture. This mixture helps in enhancing the color, and also they have a slight bacteriostatic action. Okay, so mainly as I said, they are added to fix the red color so that this myoglobin is preserved. In acidic environment, nitrite decomposed into nitric acid, and then that nitric acid reacts with hemipigment of meat, and this hemipigment is now no more in its actual or original form. That becomes nitrosomyoglobin, and this nitrosomyoglobin has a very beautiful attractive red color, and therefore it looks like it is a very very fresh. So this curing mixture or curing solution is used in preservation of meat for getting that red color. Therefore, nitrite is a real color fixative, and the nitrate is used as a source of nitrite. Okay, this nitrite can also react with secondary and tertiary amine to form nitrosamine. So basically, if further, if you have these cured meat pieces, okay, which are added with nitrates and nitrites, and smoking or heat treatment is given. So what happens, these nitrites can then react with amines which are, produced during the thermal treatment or due to hydrolysis in the product. So if these nitrites reacts with amine, nitrosamine are formed, and nitrosamine are carcinogenic in nature. Therefore, it is not recommended. So nitrate and nitrite are basically what I mean to say here is to fix the red color but not to preserve, but little bit bacteriostatic effect is there. Traditionally you have heard about smoking, using the wood smoke as a preservation method, and generally it is used in case of meat wherein the meat is exposed to wood smoke. Okay, so there are two main purposes of smoking when you perform the smoking of meat. One is the smoke has certain chemical constituent which adds the desirable flavor, and also because of its constituent they also provide a preservative effect. Okay, and in addition to that, smoked meat also gives rise to an improved color. Then it causes drying or removal of moisture. It also causes tenderization of meat. Okay, so wood smoke basically contains large number of volatile compounds, and these volatile compounds are bacteriostatic and bactericidal in nature, and because of their bacteriostatic and bactericidal nature, they helps in preservation of meat. Okay, what are those bacteriostatic compounds? For example, formaldehyde, phenol, cresol, aliphatic acid, acetaldehyde, and ketones and other compounds are bacteriostatic in nature. So when wood smoke contains variety of these compounds which are flavoring compound, and that gives rise to a desirable flavor to meat. Then another category of preservative that is used is SO2 and sulfites. So SO2 and sulfites are basically used in wine industry to sanitize equipments and also to reduce the number of microflora. Okay, generally for grape must in the wine industry, it is generally prepared from grapes. So in aqueous solution, these sulfates and sulfide, uh, they form sulfurous acid, and you all know sulfurous acid is an antimicrobial agent. Fume of burning sulfur are also used to treat the fruit and vegetable surfaces. SO2 is also added in fruit juice, syrup, and various wine as an bacteriostatic agent. Another very well known and common preservative that is being used is your sugar and salt solution. Okay, we use sugar and salt in variety of food products, for example jam, jelly, or you can have the salt is commonly used around more than 20% salt is added in pickles, uh, most commonly consumed in India, or dehydrated fruits or osmotically dehydrated vegetable wherein mostly sugar is used. Okay, so or milk is preserved for a long time by adding high concentration of sugar, and the example is milk made, that is condensed milk. Okay, or evaporated milk. Okay, so similarly foods like pickles, fish, etc. are preserved by adding high concentration of sodium chloride, and we know that how the salt and sugar provides the preservative action. So basically what happens, the salt and sugar provides preservative action because of their nature. So salt and sugar have an ability to bind with water and make it unavailable for growth of microorganism. It take out the water. What is, like suppose you have the concentrated solution, you have the food material, and this is the water and this is the solute. Okay, so what these sugars, organic acids, in the product itself there are sugars, organic acids, and uh, there is always, it happens that the water is taken out. So if you have this system, food system, like for example we know that pickle, if you add salt, what happens, this salt take out the water from the mango pieces, and after few days you see that mango slices are dehydrated because salt take out the water and bind the water, and therefore there is no water present in the pieces of raw mango for the growth of microorganism. Now the water is in the bound form which is not utilized by the microorganism, and this phenomena is called as a sea. Now earlier there was a free water, but now there is no more, and this free water means water activity. Okay, free available water for the growth of microorganism is what is called as a free water. So it reduces the water activity value of the food. Now the water is not available, now free water is converted into a bound water. So 100% water present in a food system has a water activity 1, whereas reduction in the percentage water means reduced water activity. Okay, like zero point 0.9, zero point 0.8, zero point 0.7, zero point 0.6, zero point 0.5 likewise. Sugar increases osmotic pressure and causes osmotic lysis of microbial cell. They drag out the moisture from the food and they help in drying of the food. So again, similar to sugar, sodium chloride also ionizes to give chloride ion, which is then antimicrobial, and this sodium chloride reduces the solubility of oxygen in the liquid food, and hence indirectly the growth of the microorganism is inhibited. Again, very known, well known preservatives that are commonly used in India are spices and condiments. Okay, so you see this chili, curcumin, turmeric, chili powder, then coriander powder, jeera powder, and clove, and so many, black pepper and other. So spices and other condiments that are added in food for taste and flavor are antimicrobial, and they help in food preservation. Very good example is pickle. Is pickle added with lot of spices, especially chili and this turmeric. So this antimicrobial activity differs with type of spices. For example, use mustard flour or mustard oil, etc. So this is very effective against Saccharomyces cerevisiae or Saccharomyces, but are also less effective against bacteria like yeast. Cinnamon or cloves is also added in food and is a very effective against bacteria. Garlic, onion, they are mixed in food and they have a bacteriostatic action because garlic has certain, uh, compound. Onion has a special compound. So, however, all spices can be added in all food, but they cannot provide, that bactericidal. So very specific one provides the bacteriostatic effect. Another preservative that could be used is alcohol or ethanol, which is directly an antimicrobial, and either this could be naturally produced during fermentation, and very good example is your bread. And there are certain product wherein, alcohol is externally added. Okay, there is one type of, cake, which is, dip in which the fruit pieces, dehydrated fruit pieces are dipped in alcohol, and those, fruit pieces are added into the bread. I think generally this type of bread is consumed, or cake or bread is consumed during Christmas time. I forgot that name of that bread, cake, but it is very famous and it is added with alcohol. In Goa side it is prepared. So ethanol is an antimicrobial agent. Excellent keeping quality of some food is due to their alcohol content. Ethanol content of soft drinks like beer is not sufficient to completely kill microorganism, but definitely it slows down the growth and activity of the spoilage microorganism. And how ethanol is produced? Like glucose is, converted to 2 pyruvate, and 2 pyruvate is then converted into acetaldehyde, and acetaldehyde gets converted into ethanol. So ethanol content, alcohol content of distilled alcoholic beverages, they're quite, self-sufficient. You don't have to add any preservative. So some food extracts like lemon extract, they are also preserved by addition of ethanol. And as I said, naturally ethanol is produced because of the action of yeast on sugar, and then alcohol and carbon dioxide is produced. Okay, antibiotics, use of antibiotics in food preservation, although is not permitted due to the risk of development of antibiotic resistance of the microorganism, but maybe some people use it. Okay, but it's not permitted. Formaldehyde, highly poisonous and is not permitted in food except for minor component of wood smoke. In food industry, it is used to sterilize the equipment and to kill microorganisms in air of food and processing room, and it is highly antimicrobial and it can kill fungi, bacteria, spore and viruses. Few years back I had heard that there are some people, or people who are preserving fish using formaldehyde. Okay, this formaldehyde is highly poisonous, but to preserve the fish they were using formaldehyde, which is not allowed, which is not permitted. Okay, so in newspaper this has, like this has brought to the notice, and maybe some action was taken against those who are trying to preserve the fish using formaldehyde. Ethylene and propylene oxide, they are also preservative, and they are gaseous sterilizing agent, and basically they are used to sterilize packaged food like dried food. Furthermore, ethylene oxide is also used to kill microorganism in air of food processing room. So this was all about preservative. Then a novel approach or novel food processing or food preservation techniques are coming into existence, and they are becoming very famous. And one most commonly used non-thermal, wherein temperature is not being used, is high pressure processing treatment. So what is high pressure processing? High pressure processing is basically non-thermal. There is no temperature rise during this processing. It is a food preservation process technique, and it inactivates harmful pathogen, vegetative spoilage microorganism by using what? No temperature. There you play with the pressure. So what happens during this processing? A pressure is used, intensive pressure. How much pressure? 400 to 600 megapascal is used in high pressure processing for most of the food to be preserved with minimal effect on taste, texture, appearance, and nutritional value. There are a lot of research papers available wherein HPP has been successfully used in preservation of fruit juices. High pressure processing is also referred as high hydrostatic pressure processing or ultra high pressure processing. Okay, so these are like common additional name. If somebody asks you what is ultra high pressure processing or high hydrostatic pressure processing, they are all same, high pressure processing. So pressure treatment can be used to process both liquid and high moisture content solid food. So what is the basic principle involved in this process? So there is a principle called as a Le-Chatelier's principle. So according to this principle, or saying, any phenomena, that is phase transition, change in molecular configuration, or chemical reaction which are accompanied by decrease in volume is enhanced by pressure. Okay, so accordingly pressure shifts the system to that of the lowest volume. According to isostatic principle, pressure is uniformly distributed throughout the entire sample, whether in direct contact with the pressurizing medium or insulated from it in a flexible container. So, what is the effect of high pressure processing on microorganism? So usually high pressure processing, what happens, they kill the microorganism, and according to one study, suppose in a juice or a food system there is a microorganism, and if you use 250 megapascal pressure, the microorganism, this pressure, what it does, high pressure can kill the microorganism. How? By interrupting their cellular function without use of heat, and can damage the taste, texture, and nutrition. So basically, because of the pressure, the microorganism's cellular system is damaged, and that's how the microorganisms are killed. However, because of pressure, there is no effect on uh, taste or texture. Okay, so high pressure processing systems are available in two types, like in a batch process or in a semi continuous process. In India there are universities or institutes wherein HPP has been successfully installed. There are companies also who have adopted this for commercial processing of fruit juices. Okay, so if you have a batch system of high pressure processing, you have this pressure wall. So this is your pressure wall. Then it is your product. Suppose this is sausage, and then you have a product. Then you have a pressure medium. Okay, pressurization fluid. And then you have an intensifier, hydraulic intensifier, and a pump that is being used. So how high pressure processing is performed? Uh, the food of interest to be processed is packed into the container which is basically sterilized container, and then you load it into the pressure chamber and fill the chamber with water, which is acting as a like a pressurizing medium, and pressurize the chamber, hold it under pressure. So you can vary the pressure from 250 to up to 600 megapascal. Depressurize the sample chamber and remove the processed food. Okay, so again, as like other food products, you need to optimize the pressure, time, pressure exposure, and temperature and everything with respect to each food that is you want to study. Okay, so like in the HPP, how high pressure is generated, either it could be generated by direct compression method or indirect compression method. So in direct compression, it is generated by pressurizing a fluid by a piston, so this is the piston, this is the pressure medium, this is your pressure vessel, and it is generated basically you are pressurizing a fluid by a piston driven at its larger diameter end by a low pressure pump. This method allows very fast compression. In the indirect compression, this technique uses a high pressure intensifier to pump a pressure medium to form a reservoir into a closed high pressure vessel until the desired pressure is reached. Okay. So according to some of the research paper which have published and shown that, for example, for potato cubes and carrots, 400 megapascal pressure for holding time of 15 minutes and temperature range between 5 to 50 is enough for achieving a good product in terms of reduced microbial load as well as texture and sensory acceptability. Apricot nectar. So for each product, the load that is microbial load that is given is different. So orange juice, just holding time of 1 minute is sufficient at a 350 megapascal, because maybe here the time required is very less, because orange juice is in liquid condition and liquid state it is very, and also because of the pH. So if you have if you have acidic medium, it's very easy to achieve the required microbial load. Okay, so likewise there are for various products this has been studied. Okay, so in the YouTube video there are lots of, I will link those resource material and additional online resource material with respect to this for your additional reading. So there are high pressure processing machines, either horizontal or vertical available. So in the vertical machine you can add your product from here, and then you can process the product and you can get, whereas in the horizontal you add unprocessed product here, and then from here you get, you perform the high pressure processing here and you get this product here. So high pressure processing products are like there are many high pressure processing products that are processed, like orange slices, fruit pieces, pineapple, pomegranate seeds, processed products from the meat, fish, sausages, then cheddar cheese slices, or various other processed products also have been, like chutneys, Indian products, curries, sausage, spreads, juices and smoothies, meat and seafood products. Ready meals have been also, like khichdi, pulao have been also processed and studied. So there are a lot of advantages, and that is why this processing becoming more famous and adoptable. Although initial cost is really high, capital cost of this machine, So high pressure, the advantage is like it has a high, and this high pressure is not dependent on size and shape of the food. Also, HPP retains food quality, it maintains its natural freshness, it extends the microbiological shelf life, like it retains the bioactive at the same time the microorganisms are killed. HPP results in food with a better taste, appearance, texture, and nutrition. It can be applied at room temperature, so thus reducing the amount of thermal energy needed for food products during conventional processing. Also, high pressure processing is isostatic, that is uniform throughout the food. So the food is preserved evenly throughout without any particle escaping the treatment. And this process is environmental friendly since it requires only electric energy and there are no waste products generated. Having been, read about so many advantages, there are disadvantages comes along with it, and they are, it has a high capital cost in investment, initial high capital cost equipment required for equipment. Enzymes, bacterial spores, they are very resistant to pressure and require very high pressure for their inactivation. As I said yesterday, pectin methylesterases or PPO or POD. So these enzymes are like thermally stable, and therefore, this is under again, research, wherein we are studying whether these enzymes gets inactivated. So the residual enzyme activity and dissolved oxygen results in enzymatic and oxidative degradation of certain food components. And most of the pressure produced foods need low temperature storage distribution to retain their sensory and nutritional quality. So consumers like HPP is consumer acceptable, environmental friendly, scientifically recognized method to achieve higher quality in certain food. With respect to processing, pressure transmission is instantaneous, uniform, short processing time, assured safety in whole pack, and it is suitable for solid and liquid. Quality, in terms of quality, this processing results into a good quality with more bioactive retained or more flavor and more vitamins retained in the processed product compared to the conventional processes. And as I said, there is no emissions, therefore it is environmentally safe and no byproducts generated. In case of packaging, packaging design, geometry, format should be tailored for high pressure processing. Packaging films and laminate structure generally survive HPP well, but modified atmosphere packaging and high pressure processing at high temperature can cause delamination and other defects in the packaging material. So with this, I thank you everyone, and I